everybody. This is Mary from Always Learning. And tonight we're going to be talking about the aging brain. Now, our choices, experiences, genetics affect how we age, which of course includes the health of the brain. We have to take care and see that we're doing what we can to prevent our brains from aging badly. As of 2018, there are studies that show action that has promise for slowing dementia, and progress is even being made toward finding effective medical treatments for dementia. Make no mistake though, dementia is not a part of normal aging. It is something, it's more of an umbrella term for any condition that harms brain tissue, interferes with memory, and with learning new things. Now, although Alzheimer's is the best known by most people, it is the one most people have heard of. It is not the only one. Trauma to the head, infections that destroy brain tissue, strokes, and Parkinsonian dementia are a few that fall under that umbrella. Now, let me tell you some ways that you can work against, getting dementia, preventive measures. Lifelong learning is number one. Education and mental activity. Always make it a point to learn as much as you can about a variety of topics. Mental activity exercises the brain, and in order to make your brain stronger, just like a muscle, your brain needs exercise, and it thrives on new, novel, different challenges. When we learn more, our brains tend to develop into a more complex structure. This, as we make the brain more flexible, helps create new neurons and circuits, and there's a group of proteins that stimulate neural production. When those proteins are available to the brain, it's healthier, it's more pliable, and new learning becomes easier. When they're unavailable, it's harder to learn, it's harder to remember things, and your brain can actually start to wither away over time. Certain things accelerate this process also. Fear, stress, smoking, heavy drinking, unhealthy diet, childhood trauma, little exercise, and even chronic pain. All of these things bring me down to the second action we need to take. Exercise. Studies have shown that as little as 15 minutes of walking every day is helpful to keep the brain healthy. One study showed that in people over 65, if they only do 15 minutes a day of walking consistently, they can experience a growth of 2% in their brain. Now, that's important because it's the brain's primary memory cortex. This seems to be, they say, the equivalent of reversing 2 years of aging in your brain. Can you even imagine? When we're young, our brains change rapidly. We're always learning new, novel things, remember? And the activities that we go through, the experiences we have, good and bad and whatever, religious practices, relationships, trauma, and so on, impact our growing and learning brains very strongly. Some childhood experiences actually have such a depth to them in terms of the effect it has on our brain that it can actually impact the structural development of the brain. Negative experiences increase in activity and stress pathways, and that causes some correlation between the negative experiences, the stress, and mental and physical issues in life, which would include the brain, including accelerated aging. Number 3 is to start now at any age. Doesn't matter how old you are, it is never too late to change bad habits and to see results. While we can't go back in time and change our childhood experiences, there's findings now that certain genes that are associated with the ability to create new neurons, and that these genes can be stimulated, which can increase brain volume. Wow. If you've had childhood trauma, studies are favorable to say, hey, cognitive behavioral therapy can actually help with this. The studies have observed cognitive behavioral therapy helping slow the stress response over time, gives the person less physical and emotional stress, all the good things that needs to happen from that. And the thought is basically slow signs of aging. And importantly, whenever we start CBT for trauma, it can help lower our risk of dementia. There's also research that finds that forgiveness has a great power to heal us. Letting go of resentment and frustration instead of holding on to it. Let whatever it is go. Forgive the person, resolve the conflict. And again, that seems to show a lot of protection for our brain as we do something like that. It has a significant impact on lessening our stress. People that practice forgiveness have more luck setting boundaries, and they have less long-term risk of depression and anxiety. Now, number 4 that you need to work on, we need to work on, is inflammation, which can be tied to chronic depression and stress and anxiety. Okay. These things, both stress and anxiety, can cause a large role or plays a large role in causing inflammation in the body. Studies have found that any inflammation can cause depression to get worse. Both dementia and depression seem to be affected by this inflammatory response. Inflammation can be used, the term, when referring to many components that cause aging. Most negative health issues are thought to cause accelerated aging, and because of dementia, or increase of dementia, at the simplest level then, we look at inflammation and we say inflammation occurs when the body is fighting some sort of intruder that it doesn't recognize. It could be from an infection, it could be from a disease, it could be from trauma to the body, an injury or something like that. When the body detects something that's not supposed to be there, the inflammation fighters like the white blood cells come out and they try to weaken the threat. That's why we feel tired, achy, and have all kinds of other symptoms when we're fighting off whatever it is. The body is literally wearing itself out as it's fighting against the invaders. Now, the immune system doesn't always recognize a perceived threat or intruder from a real one. This is one reason chronic stress can be so dangerous for us. If the immune system thinks that there's always a threat through the chronic stress and chronic anxiety, the body can turn on itself, and in the process, healthy cells can be harmed. Inflammation is thought to be a preventable risk factor since we can take preventive measures to minimize inflammation in the body. The food we eat has quite a lot to do with this, which brings me to the last thing we mentioned today as a dangerous risk factor for dementia. That would be sugar consumption. Now, there's a quote from Medscape Psychiatry that says, quote, "Sugar is the new tobacco. Let's treat it that way." In the 1800s, sugar consumption per person per year was under 10 pounds. Even more striking to me is the fact that in 1822, the average American ate in 5 days the amount of sugar found in one of today's 12-ounce soft drinks. We ingest, they say, that amount of sugar every 7 hours in 2023, 2024, because of the prevalence of sugar in processed foods and everywhere else in the American diet. Sugar is likely addictive, and it absolutely does play a role in accelerating aging. A 2014 study said that high sugar intake usually goes along with an unhealthy diet, which makes sense because if you're eating too much sugar, how are you going to get the variety of vitamins and micronutrients and minerals, the things that we actually need for our body to build healthy tissues? Without them, your cells can wear out and die. Ideally, we get these things from our diet. But with our diet today averaging more than 100 pounds of sugar per person per year in the United States, many of us are overweight but undernourished. We need to swap out probably the sugar for something like the omega-3 fatty acids found in oily fish. Wild salmon, mackerel, and sardines are great sources that we should try to eat at least weekly, several times. I think I've read 3 times a week, maybe kind of the best. Now, lesser extent, plants like flax can contribute. Omega-3 fatty acids seem to lower inflammation, and the brain needs fat in order to be healthy. a major finding is that the supplements like the omega-3 fatty acid capsules are not as effective as getting them naturally, the nutrients and the oils and everything else really, from the food, in this case from the fish. Now the fish ideally should be broiled or baked, not fried or battered. Okay, studies have also shown that that could make it completely unhealthy for you because of the batter and because of course, the frying and so on. Now, if you have mild cognitive impairment, which is before dementia occurs, then the subjects that ate fish instead of the supplements tended to have more gray matter, which is associated with memory, processing, and thinking skills, which are all important to trying to keep dementia as far away from us as possible. Okay? Now, I hope you've found some of these things helpful. If you have, please give it a little like, subscribe, or whatever if you found any value in this. And there was so much more to talk about, but it turns out that I'm going to have to do a whole other video on just specifically the healthy things that we should be eating. That's going to be a very short video because there's very specific ones that doctors pretty much all agree on. And I think that'll be coming up pretty soon if all the parts here of the process work right. Thank you guys. Love you.